Good evening, and you are very welcome to the Business and Enterprise programme here on CavanTV.com. My name is Colm Colgan, and we are broadcasting live from Cavan Town on today, the 31st of October, which is the scariest day of the year. It's the day when people are looking for things off you and they come knocking on the door looking for you. And if you don't have what they want, they'll keep knocking and they'll keep scaring you and it'll be frightening. And they'll keep coming back and they'll even threaten you if they don't get exactly what they want. I'm of course talking about the 31st of October tax deadline, which I assume everybody has sent in their returns, and I also hope in these straitened times that you also had the resources to pay what was due, otherwise it will get very scary. One thing that's not scary is my guest for tonight. In fact, if you're one of the thousands of people that do set up a business every year, and if you happen to be lucky enough to live in Cavan, she will be the friendly and helpful face from the Cavan County Enterprise Board that will help you. In fact, I would even go as far as to say she's one of life's nurturers. Marcella Rudden of Cavan County Enterprise Board, you're very welcome to the programme and thank you for taking the time to come.
Good evening, Colm. Good to be here.
I thought before we start talking about the boring stuff of the Cavan County Enterprise Board, let's find out who is Marcella Rudden. And don't mess my interview up with just saying me.
No. I work with Cavan Enterprise Board, as you know, Colm. I'm there for over 10 years. I work as the business advisor there. I'm part of a team of people there. I work with Jim Fox, who's the assistant CEO, and Vincent Reynolds, who is the chief executive officer, and various other project staff that work there on other cross-border programmes that you'd be familiar with, Colm, over the years. I'm originally from Cavan. I live in Kellishandra, and I'm here to talk about what it's like to set up in business and what the Enterprise Board does.
Well, not a bad way to start it off. What are some of the services that Cavan County Enterprise Board, and I assume it would be the same for enterprise boards throughout the country, what services do they offer fledgling businesses?
Yes, there are at the moment there are 35 CBs across the country, so there's one in every county, and some counties obviously have more than one. Dublin, Waterford, Limerick would have a county and a city enterprise board. We all broadly provide the same type of services. We were set up in 1993, and at the time it was felt there was a gap in the market for an agency, a local government agency, for a specific type of business that wasn't being serviced correctly, and the government felt that in particular for manufacturing and international tradable services that there was a gap there in the services that were currently being provided. So the enterprise boards were set up with a small team of people to provide supports, both what we call soft supports and financial supports, to small micro businesses. So we deal with businesses less than 10 people, and that ranges from financial assistance, from training programs, from mentoring, and various other initiatives. Of course, we would also be involved at a national level with our other CV counterparts in National Enterprise Awards and Student Enterprise Awards. So we're there to promote enterprise and local economic development in the county, Colm.
You were started in 1993. If my memory serves me right, 1993 was also a recession.
Yes.
And here we are, yet another recession. I think there might have been one in between that as well. Has the remit that was there in 1993 changed to what it is now? And also the fact that, I suppose, not if, but when the country gets back up on its knees again, it'll probably on the back of the small and medium enterprises. You're probably getting a ton of more resources now to sort that problem out, aren't you?
That's a very optimistic view you have. In 1993, yes, there was a recessionary times. That's one of the reasons the board was set up at the time. The board services have actually broadly remained the same right through, and there's no difference really in the services we provide now and what would have been provided back in the 90s. Even in the good times, the services were still being availed of, not to the same level. So the board has had to adapt in terms of what it has to offer according to what the economic climate is. Obviously now there's much more pressure on our resources. We don't get any more resources. We still pretty much are getting the same, if not probably a lot less now, and I don't see that changing going forward. I mean, the boards themselves will have to change at some point in the future as well. But we feel that we kind of are very adaptive and flexible, and that's one of the key things about the Enterprise Board. We're working on the ground, we know a lot of our clients, and we can respond very quickly to what it is that people want, and that's good, and that's very important at a local level.
And has the assistance that people are looking for changed? I know I just said has what you've given changed, but have what people are now looking for I suppose, 5, 6, 7 years, if there was a redundancy scheme somewhere, you got a very good payoff. Any redundancies that you hear of now, you get your statutory, so nobody has a big pot that they did have 5, 10 years ago to start something up. Are people coming to you now with different needs?
Yes, even though we've had to respond to whatever the economic climate is, we do have to. A lot of our programs and our supports are based on what we feel the needs of the clients are, and what we, from our dealings with clients on a daily basis, we have to adapt accordingly. So obviously in the last couple of years, probably since 2007 really, we would have noticed a change in terms of people now becoming under more financial pressure. So cash flow is an issue, people getting paid is a huge issue. Marketing and sales is a big issue, and that's particularly for kind of newer businesses, we'll say less than 2 years. Then you would have existing businesses who maybe are in business quite a long time. They have had to upskill themselves, or maybe they've had to take a step back and look at what way they're running their business, and maybe they've had to come and do maybe a management development program with ourselves, or they've had to retrain themselves or their staff. They've had to diversify, look for new products, new services. So we try and facilitate that, and we're very much work in the role of facilitation, and that could be, as you would have experience of, maybe participating in a cross-border program. So we would be constantly looking at ways of supporting and assisting clients for them in order to grow and sustain their business if they're in business, and then if they're very new, trying to support them really to see if they can keep going and to get to the next step within their business.
So am I right in saying from what you were saying there that the Enterprise Board just doesn't help new and fledgling businesses? If you could be established for years or generations, and you can still, if you have a board meeting and you say, look, things aren't going well, we have to change what we're doing, or we're not going to survive, a business like that could go to the Enterprise Board and they could still be assisted. Is that right?
Yes. Once a lot of our clients would start off maybe many years ago, maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago as one person. That business has now grown to maybe 10. We can still have businesses up to 10 employees. So we would have a lot of businesses who are still in contact with us 10 years later, and it could be a family business. So that's part of the advantage of us, I suppose, at local level, is that we tend to build relationships with our clients over the years, and we get to know them, we get to know what their needs are, and they do continually come back to us looking for various supports. It could be a website support scheme, it could be some mentoring for a particular issue that's arisen within the business, or as I said, it could be a management development program that they want to participate on. So yes, we have long-standing relationships with clients as well as new startups. We still would work very closely with businesses that have been there for quite a while.
Now, looking at some of the specific areas you do covering, mentoring is one of them. A, how would you go about getting a mentor, and B, what could you expect from that mentor?
All the enterprise boards run a mentoring program. I suppose over the years we've had a kind of a two-tier type mentoring program, where we would have one specifically for new businesses that were kind of less than 18 months old, and those that were older than that, businesses that have been running for a couple of years, because they would have different needs. Anyone can come to us and apply for our mentoring program. The first question we will ask is what the problem is, what needs to be sorted out. If that problem can be addressed through a training program that we're currently running, that's where people will be directed first of all. So if someone is thinking of starting up a business and is looking for some assistance maybe with business planning, then the very first thing they will do is a Start Your Own Business course, because business planning will be covered in that. What we would say then is that maybe when they've completed the course and they've got all the basic underlying information that they need in order to set themselves up, to kind of wait for a couple of months, and maybe then, which is usually the pattern, problems crop up or everything doesn't go according to plan. That's life. So they might come back then and look for some mentoring assistance in a particular area within the business. For an existing business, it could be a very specialised area. Say if it's a food company, they're looking maybe developing a new product and they need some help, we'll say within a food technology sector, or maybe testing of recipes, or it could be marketing and sales or branding. It could be a business that's experiencing human resources issues or cash flow problems. So they will come to us and apply. The Enterprise Board does not charge for that service. we subsidise that very heavily. So it's a very useful resource. It's one that we have a budget for, and it's very beneficial to the businesses because they are getting that one-on-one time with the mentor. A mentor is there to advise and to guide and direct, so that if the company experiences that problem again, that they have the necessary information and the tools in order to deal with that problem again. So they're like a third eye looking in, and sometimes businesses need an outsider just to come in and to look at how the business is operating, because it can be very difficult for somebody running a business, particularly if there's not that many employees or they're on their own, to look at all the different areas of business objectively. You're very close to it, you've set this business up, you're running it for years, and it can be difficult. Sometimes difficult decisions have to be made, and sometimes it's good to have that person there that they can discuss issues with and that they can give them some advice and guidance on.
So would I be right in saying a mentor doesn't come in and go, that's the solution, give it to you and away you go. He will sit down and assume that somewhere in your own resources you have the solution, and they will just tease it out of you. So a mentor is probably there, correct my terminology if I'm wrong, a mentor is there to help you to save your own business, rather than him coming in on or she yes. I should say, yes, coming in to save your business.
Absolutely. They're there to help you. Now, obviously, in some instances, a mentor has that specialist expertise or knowledge that the business owner requires and needs. And they may have contacts, or they may be aware of a better way of doing something. But I suppose the ultimate goal is that they're there to teach and to guide and to advise and direct somebody, rather than, as you say, they're not going to come in and do the job for you, because that's not going to solve anything, because that problem will arise again, no doubt, in the future. So it's there to give the business owner the confidence to do that, to tackle that problem again. And it's a very successful way of tackling certain problems, and the mentor and the business owner then have that one-to-one time with each other on site at their place of business. You
just mentioned there planning. Has the old kind of style planning gone out the window, where you had your 5-year plan, 10-year plan? Somebody told me my plan at the moment is I plan to survive for the week. I know that was probably tongue in cheek, but it's probably not too far off the mark. But even if you go to a bank now, before they throw you at the door, if you gave them a 5-year plan, they'd probably just laugh at you, because in fact nobody knows kind of what's out there. What has replaced the long-term planning?
Long-term planning is still there, and it has to be, Colm. A business plan, and we hear a lot of talk about business plans, and sometimes it doesn't have to be a manuscript. A business plan can be a very simple, straightforward document. Essentially, it's a roadmap for where you're going, and it can be a week long. A business plan, most definitely, if you're seeking finance from a bank or any financial institution, they are going to look for it, and they're going to look for at least 3 years projections and your plans for the business for the next 3 years. That's the way they operate. However, a business on a weekly basis can sit down on a Monday morning and look and say, well, what are my objectives for this week? What do I need to do to survive for this week? But again, that's part of their plan. So I think people tend to get a bit too hung up on the word business plan. A business plan is saying, what am I planning to do? Where am I going with this business? How am I going to get there? And what am I going to do to get there? So that may be a week, it could be a month, and it could be a year. But as we all know, the economic climate is changing all the time. So people have to be adaptable and flexible. And anyone who's self-employed has to have that capability and be quite comfortable with that, being able to change according to the way the market's changing. Their customers may change, their staff may change, or they themselves may have to change. So if you're going to be self-employed, you have to be quite at ease with that flexibility and adaptability within yourself, because that's the nature of running your own business.
And plenty of Galveston.
Yes.
that kind of goes without saying. So just going back to the mentoring, do you go to the Enterprise Board for your mentoring? Do you go to the mentor's office, or does the mentor come to your site?
The mentoring program is run by the Enterprise Board because it's funded by ourselves. So anyone expressing an interest in mentoring has to come to the Enterprise Board. Oh, I know they come through you, but when you have been appointed the mentor... When the mentor is approved, the mentor will meet with the business person on site at their place of business. So it takes place there. Because the mentor obviously has to go out and look at the place of business and obviously see what's going on and meet with the owner or the manager of the business. So that takes place on site in the place of business.
And is there a time limit that you have a mentor for?
Yes, no, there's a number of hours approved depending on what needs to be covered. So that's determined by the mentor and by the Enterprise Board.
Does the client, are we called clients? Or
clients, that's your
client.
official name.
Yes, their official name is clients. Do we have a say? Like if somebody says, look, you can have 10 hours with this guy, have you to make those 10 hours work, or can you say, look, 10 hours...
It depends. There has to be flexibility and adaptability. Yeah. Obviously, an assignment isn't going to be cut off. If there's a body of work that has to be covered, or there's a certain issue or problem that's not getting solved and it needs a few extra hours, then of course that's reviewed. We, the Enterprise Board, are kept up to date by the mentor after each of the visits, so we know what's going on and we can see how the assignment is going and whether it's working out or not, and what's being achieved, more to the point. And it's very much a two-way thing. I mean, obviously the business has to work with the mentor, and they have to work together in order to get the body of work covered and to make the most of that time that they have with the mentor. And look, we all know things happen, people have busy schedules, everything else, but look, it's flexible and adaptable.
Now, you also mentioned other agencies. Is there much cooperation, either cross-border or even internally, between other enterprise boards and other agencies?
Enterprise boards, yes, we don't work on our own. We can't. The nature of our business, we would work very closely with Cavan County Council, with the Chamber of Commerce, with Leader, Cavan and Rural Development. We work with other enterprise boards, particularly in the border counties here. We work with the other enterprise boards on cross-border programmes, one being the Trade Links programme, which was a major mentoring programme which now has been extended for another year, and we would hope to be able to offer businesses the opportunity to participate in that programme again in the future. We are always looking for other programmes or other avenues that we can either garner extra funding or offer our clients better services or more appropriate services, and we are continually looking at ways of signposting to other agencies. If we think another agency may be able to offer a client something, then we will signpost them. That's the official term, but we are always looking at ways of helping clients in addition to the services that we offer, and that's our role. We work very closely with other agencies. We have to offer as much support as possible.
Now, next year will be the 20th anniversary of enterprise boards. Obviously you weren't there at the beginning, you were probably still in kindergarten when they started. But has the type of businesses changed? Well, obviously I would expect that over the last 20 years, but even in your period of 10 years, have the nature of businesses changed? In other words, is there a business that was flying 10 years ago and now it's a thing in the past?
Well, yes, of course. Like in the boom times, local service industries were very prevalent, obviously, because consumers had a lot of money, so businesses tended to be targeted at consumer disposable income. Obviously the construction industry was flying. That has changed obviously now. The construction industry is not as prevalent as it was. However, having said that, there are a lot of individuals who work in the construction industry who are now re-upskilling and still remaining in self-employment, and there are those that were working in full-time salaried employment who were made redundant and are getting the redundancy now, small and all as it may be, but maybe have had an idea on the back burner and are looking to investigate that now. People now, when they're setting up a business, have to be a lot more prepared and be just a lot more careful of what it is they're going to do, because they're going to invest some money into it, their time, their efforts, and they have to be very sure that there is a market out there for what it is they're going to do. When money was flowing, then obviously there wasn't that concern, and I think people just were very busy making money. Their business was doing very well, and then as the economic climate changed and everything became tighter, including consumers' disposable income, business people weren't getting paid as quickly. Everything is affected by that, so people have to look at things in a different way. They have to cut costs, and the cost of running a business is high as well. Rents were going up, there's rates, there's a lot of things to consider, so people have to just be very, very well prepared, and that's why so many people do the Start Your Own Business course. And I'm always saying to people, look, do the course, you may not use what you learn on it now, but sometimes people go off and maybe a year later they open up a business, or they may say, do you know what, this is just not for me, because it is 7 days a week, it's a lot longer hours, and there's a huge commitment from you and your family and everyone else to running a business. But that's what people want, and a lot of people get a buzz out of it, and that's what they enjoy. But sometimes when people do a course, they realise that that's not what they want, and that's good. And I would always encourage people, if you have an idea, it doesn't matter what it is, do the course, and you'll get all the information you need in order to go off and set your business up. And if you don't, fair enough, but at least you have that information to hand. And with the internet, there's so many websites and lots of information available now. So it's there's never been a better time in the last couple of years in terms of information to set a business up. And if anyone wants to discuss a business proposal or just wants to discuss an idea, they can pick up the phone and ring the Enterprise Board at any time.
Some of the training programs that you do, apart from the Start Your Own Business one, what other training courses can people avail of?
Well,
assuming that you've taken the step, yes.
Yeah, right.
I'm really delighted with what Marcella said, and I want to start my business. And after that, what other courses could be done?
There tends to be a pattern, obviously. If someone starts a Start Your Own Business course, they've completed that, they've set up their business. Usually the next course that people will look at is how to market their business. Now, on the Start Your Own Business course, a lot of these areas are covered, but in more detail at the moment, of course, social media is one area that people are doing a lot of courses in, and we have run courses in how to use Facebook to promote your business and other social media avenues. We would also do website marketing and optimization, and then we do the financials, which not everyone likes to do, but I know, but they have to be done and very important. So we would have bookkeeping for startups, or taxation, cash flow, all of those topics that nobody wants to do but are incredibly important for you to be aware of if you're running a business. So we would find people tend to do the marketing ones first, social media,
the juicy ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And then do maybe some of the financial ones, but they're not all done at once. We would find people come back year on year usually to do something, and then we would have a management development program for the businesses, probably 2 years, or at least 2 years in business, and the CBs at a national level piloted a program last year, the Accelerate Management Development Program, which we're hoping to run again this year. It's been rolled out nationally.
That'd be kind of similar to the Plato programs.
No, it's not. No, this is developed really is to help people be able to grow and sustain their business. So you're looking at maybe 6 workshops, 1 workshop per month for 6 months, and 1-to-1 mentoring sessions in and out between. And that's for the business owner, who will come in and just 1 day a week, 1 day a month, over a period of 6 months, and then they will have a 1-to-1 mentoring session as well, in and out between each of those modules over a 6-month period. So we're hoping to run that out in November this year, and if anyone is in business for at least 2 years, because you would want to be fairly well established, then contact me at the Enterprise Board, and I'd be happy to chat to anyone about the details of the programme.
They'll be banging on your door.
I'm sure they will, yeah.
If the service industries, if they're the business that are slipping, what's the business that are growing? If I was thinking of going into business tomorrow, what areas should I be looking at? Apart from the fact that, what are you interested in? But if say I'm interested in lots of things, what are the areas that are working well?
To be honest, there's no real list.
People are listening here, and they're waiting for you to say, start up such a business.
Exactly, yeah. It actually does vary across the board. I mean, if you look at the people who are on the Start Your Own Business courses, there are still people opening up in the service industry. Food obviously is quite popular. Food is a growing area. And a lot of people are starting up small food businesses and kind of operating from home at first, and then maybe selling their products maybe at farmers markets, testing them out, seeing how they're doing. And then there's usually quite a big jump then when somebody maybe is attempting to maybe supply the Super Values or Dunnes Stores or Tesco's. That's when really you're ramping up production. You're getting a facility, so, and not everyone goes to that level.
Yes, of course, because people would think, great, I've gotten Super Value, this is fantastic. And then you sit down and you realise what a nightmare it is. I need premises, I need distribution, it, and it's that's such big a jump. You like to get your kind of potential clients early, so you have a students award. I know it was on earlier in the year, and I suppose if it was on early in the year, possibly some students are starting to think about going there now. How does the Student Enterprise Awards work?
The Student Enterprise Awards is a national CV programme. So over 15,000 students every year approximately participate in the Student Enterprise Awards. At a county level, we operate the Student Enterprise Awards programme. That actually starts off in September. So at the moment now, the students are busy coming up with ideas for their projects for this year's competition. We then will hold a county final in early March usually, and we usually hold it most years in the Steve Russell Hotel, where all the schools in the county, and there's 10 secondary schools in County Cavan, all 10 have registered this year, which is great, and I have to pay tribute to the teachers within all of those schools, because really a lot of effort goes in by the teachers to work with the students and parents too in supporting the students to do this work, because it is outside their school activities generally. It can be junior right through from junior, intermediate, senior categories, and then the winners in each of those categories go forward to the national finals in Croke Park every year. So essentially the Enterprise Board is there to facilitate that programme. We organise it, we give them a little small grant to get their project off the ground, and they learn the skills. They learn firsthand what it's like to run a business. Even though it's on a small scale, it still gives them some semblance of what it's like to run a business. So at least then they can consider that as perhaps a career option later on. But as I say, sometimes a lot of people go off, get some life experience, they go to college, they work for a while, and maybe they may want to run a business later on in life, but at least they'll have some idea of what's involved.
You mentioned it there, it was on my list, so I may as well kind of jump through it before we run out of time. Grants. Yes. What grants are available? How do you get them? And what can they be for?
Grants, that's the number one question, Colm, that everyone asks, obviously, is what grants are available. There are grants available, or selective financial assistance is the fancy term for it.
Oh, I like that. What's that one again?
Yeah, selective financial intervention, I think is the correct term. I better correct it, yeah. But if you're in the manufacturing area, so manufacturing, or what they call international tradable services, is the key priority areas for grant assistance. So the government back in '93 always was providing assistance for manufacturing businesses in particular that are based in the county, that are creating employment. It's a very costly business to set up, and so grants tended to always be prioritised in that area. That still pretty much stayed the same. The key thing is that there must be the potential there for export.
But are there any small grants for small businesses? Sorry, not small businesses, micro enterprises.
Well, they're there, and I mean, and there are grants available there, and if somebody fits into that criteria.
And what could you get one for? Hardly only for export and manufacturing, is it?
Well, yes, some people could be manufacturing, and in time, the business will grow beyond the county.
Can you still get a feasibility grants?
Yeah, there's three. There's feasibility study grant, there's business startup, and business expansion. But again, they must fall into the area, and they must be commercially viable. Obviously, there must be a market proven there for it, and you have to be able to prove that, and you must be within those areas. So you have to be within the manufacturing.
Just your feasibility study.
Yes, but
you have to know. You have to know the feasibility of it before you get grant for feasibility study.
Well, a feasibility study, if you look at it from, this is government money that obviously funds.
That's their money.
Yes, it's taxpayers'
the government
money.
Is just mining
it's taxpayers' money. Absolutely.
They're not really mining it very well, but it is their money, and they are mining it.
We try to do the best we can with it. So if someone wants a feasibility study, we say to develop a new product or to investigate a particular market, then understandably they have to be capable of proving that it's a commercially viable proposal, that it has the capability of going beyond County Cavan and going much further afield. So what I would say is, look, if anyone has a business idea or proposal, you can ring my colleague Jim Fox. He looks after the grants, and he'd be happy to talk to you.
Okay, and on that note, we will leave it, and I'm sure there will be queuing outside your door from tomorrow morning. Well, that's it for tonight. Again, a huge thanks to my guest, Marcella Rudden of the Cavan County Enterprise Board. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something from it, and I hope you'll know who to go to if you are looking to follow up your business. I've been Colm Colgan. Thanks for your time. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.